In courtroom 5 of the Arlington District Court, the slow tick of the wall clock was the only sound echoing off the wooden panels before the day's proceedings began. It had just struck 9 when the clerk shuffled to the front of the room, balancing a stack of case files, his footsteps dull against the marble floor. The atmosphere was thick with murmurs and idle speculation, attorneys glancing at notes, defendants whispering with counsel, and spectators leaning in to exchange quiet gossip. Presiding over the court was Judge Gregory Whitmore, a man known for his sharp tongue and even sharper disdain for anyone he deemed unworthy of his courtroom. He was well into his 60s, but his presence filled the bench with iron authority. His graying hair was combed meticulously to the side, his robe crisp, and his gaze unforgiving. Those who entered his courtroom did so with caution, for Whitmore had made a reputation of reducing men to rubble with little more than a few well-timed insults and a swing of the gavel. The clerk cleared his throat and read aloud, "The State versus Franklin Everett. Charge, trespassing on private property." As the courtroom door creaked open, a momentary hush swept the room. All eyes turned to the figure that emerged. Franklin Everett didn't walk so much as he moved with the gentle gravity of age. Dressed in a well-kept but clearly dated overcoat, his shoulders stooped slightly and his gait measured, supported by a smooth wooden cane. His eyes, though, were alert, brighter than expected, carrying the weight of someone who had seen more than a few lifetimes of judgment. He made his way to the defendant's table slowly, without drama or hesitation. A few spectators whispered, and some attorneys leaned toward one another, comparing files. The man on trial didn't match the image of a typical repeat trespasser. Judge Whitmore adjusted his glasses and eyed Franklin with thinly veiled amusement. He leaned forward, voice crisp and condescending. "Mr. Everett," he began, "this is not your first time standing in this courtroom. Last month, you were warned. And yet here we are again. I'm curious, do you just enjoy our company?" Franklin raised his head calmly, eyes locking onto the judge's. "It wasn't a mistake, Your Honor." The judge paused mid-page flip, frowning. "I beg your pardon?" Franklin didn't flinch. "Clearbrook Estate used to be open to the public. I spent most of my childhood there. My father was the groundskeeper. We fished on the weekends. That lake, it's a part of me." Whitmore scoffed, shutting the file with a thud. "Mr. Everett, nostalgia doesn't grant immunity from the law. That estate was sold years ago. It is now private property. You have no right to be there." "I understand that," Franklin said quietly. "Then why were you there?" Whitmore demanded, leaning forward, voice rising. Franklin's reply came with a small shrug. "Sometimes, Your Honor, you need to go back to see something clearly." The spectators stirred. Whitmore's knuckles tapped impatiently against the desk. "Don't distract me with vague riddles, Mr. Everett. If you violated the law again, there will be consequences." "Do you have a lawyer?" Franklin shook his head. "No, sir. I'm not defending myself." Whitmore's brow furrowed. "Then what are you doing?" "Requesting a phone call." Gasps and murmurs fluttered through the courtroom like wine through dry leaves. A few people chuckled. The judge raised an eyebrow. "You're not under arrest. This is not a police precinct. This is a courtroom. If I'm going to be sentenced, I'd like to inform my daughter," Franklin said softly. The room held its breath. Whitmore rolled his eyes. "Fine. Make it quick." Franklin reached into his coat pocket and retrieved an old cell phone. He dialed a number with steady hands, then spoke in a voice that carried through the entire courtroom. "Claire, it's time." He ended the call. Silence again, until the doors opened moments later with a sharp burst of air. A woman strode into the courtroom with effortless command, her heels clicking like gavel strikes on the wooden floor. Her presence was magnetic. Black trench coat, hair pulled back into a tight bun. Her walk exuded elegance laced with danger. Two men in black suits flanked her, carrying sleek leather briefcases. She walked straight to Franklin and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "Dad," she said, "are you all right?" Gasps filled the room once more. Claire Everett, CEO of Meridian Capital. A name that sent shockwaves through the room. One of the most powerful women in global finance. The woman who managed portfolios larger than state economies. She turned, eyes trained on the judge like a hawk spotting a snake in grass. "Your Honor," she said, her voice calm, cold, and deeply cutting, "I saw how you spoke to my father." Judge Whitmore's face twitched. He fumbled for control. "Miss Everett, this is highly irregular." "This is not testimony," Claire interrupted. "This is a reckoning." She stepped forward and placed a file the thickness of a dictionary on the clerk's table. Within this folder are documents confirming Franklin Everett as the founder and executive chairman emeritus of Everett Meridian Foundation. Also included, property transaction records regarding the Clearbrook estate. The judge leaned forward, confused. What is this? Claire's gaze narrowed. Proof that my father was in negotiations to reacquire the land he once tended. 2 weeks ago, the first installment was paid. 3 days ago, the seller signed the pre-transfer deed. The property you're charging him with trespassing on was already, by every legal and financial measure, in the process of becoming his once more. The courtroom exploded in shocked whispers. Whitmore went pale. I was not informed of any of this. Claire raised her voice, silencing the room. Because no one cared to ask. Because he didn't look like the kind of man whose name funds half your courthouse renovations. There was a long pause. Then she laid down another folder. This one contains the donation ledger for the Arlington Judicial Support Fund. Whitmore hesitated before opening it. Inside, the Everett Meridian Foundation's name appeared on nearly every page, linked to courtroom upgrades, scholarships, and legal aid endowments. Claire's voice turned razor-sharp. Even the bench you sit on, Your Honor, was partially funded by my father's life's work. The judge's mouth opened, but no words came. His power had evaporated in front of the public he once lorded over. Franklin slowly stood. I came here to understand how justice is dispensed today, he said, voice rich with experience. And what I saw, I expected. It changes depending on the shoes you're wearing, the coat on your back. He looked directly into the judge's eyes. But you know where you misstepped, Gregory? He asked, using the judge's first name. You assumed I was poor. The room was silent again, no coughs, no shifting seats. Just raw realization. Franklin continued. And when you made that assumption, you stopped trying to see who I really was. Judge Whitmore's throat moved, but still no voice came. Claire turned toward the crowd, then back at the bench. We will be filing a formal misconduct complaint against you. And depending on what comes next, she added, we may seek civil action. The court clerk whispered something to the bailiff, who stood motionless, wide-eyed. Finally, the judge raised a trembling hand. This court finds the defendant, Mr. Franklin Everett, not guilty. All charges are dismissed. Franklin simply nodded. Claire slipped her arm through her father's. Let's go home, Dad. When the heavy doors of courtroom 5 opened again, the media was already waiting outside. Flashes fired, microphones thrust forward. But Franklin didn't speak to any of them. He walked slowly, steadily, with his daughter beside him and a dignity no one could mistake ever again. Behind him, Judge Gregory Whitmore sat in stunned silence, his career effectively over, undone not by politics, not by corruption, but by a single phone call to the daughter of the man he had humiliated. And on that day, in one of the most unexpected trials in Arlington's history, a truth was laid bare. Justice, real justice, begins when we stop judging by appearances and start listening with humility. Sometimes, the courtroom doesn't put the right man on trial. But sometimes, it still finds the truth anyway.